I'm beyond thrilled to have Mikel Welch with me today. Listeners, you are going to be blown away at all the wonderful tidbits of creativity and design. But you know what my goal is? My goal is also to get to know him better because he's a wonderful friend, an amazing and talented designer. Thank you, Mikel, for coming today.
Oh my gosh, thank you. You know, it's so funny. I don't even know what we're going to talk about today because we've talked so much on the phone. I feel like we've covered it all, but I guess now the world gets to hear it all. So I'm super excited. Me and Bailey, I have my puppy here, just so you guys know.
I have to say, she's a very good puppy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so we're happy to have her too. We're definitely dog lovers over here. So I always love getting a better understanding. Maybe it's my therapist's mind.
Okay.
You know, when you were a child, I know you grew up in Michigan.
Yes.
How did you find design as a kid? You know, were you already drawn to things? Like, what's your home therapy story?
Okay, so my home therapy story. Let me sit on your sofa. This is interesting. So as a kid, I was always infatuated with like cities. And I remember going to my parents at a very early age, like preschool, and I asked them for like all the Fisher Price toys that I could have because I wanted to create like a little miniature city in the living room. And really, I didn't ask them to go to Fisher Price per se, but my parents, they got me all these Fisher Price toys and they kind of made a community on the living room floor.
That is so fun.
From there, I started making like little living room vignettes, and I didn't know it then. It was just fun. Like I was just making houses per se. And that was kind of like my intro into design. I just didn't know it yet. So, you know, some 22 years later, it would come back.
Well, I love that so much because there's always a reason that things happen, right? Nothing's ever a coincidence.
Absolutely.
And there's never, even though it feels painful at the time, but there's never wasted time on projects or experience. You know, anything is never really a waste of time. It's always a lesson, a self-growth moment. And so for you, it started with your little preschool toys and building your cities, which I think is so cute. I love it so much. And then I know, you know, you grow older. Was there anyone at home that had design background as well? Or you just kind of were the anomaly?
You're about to start some drama because I hope my mother is not listening, because if I say anything other than yes, she'll be offended. But sorry, Mom. No. The answer is no.
So as a God-given creative spirit within you
is definitely a God-given talent. I will say this. I'll kind of fast forward to after college. Like I graduated from Morehouse College in Atlanta, and it's a liberal arts school.
A great school.
You. And I had a degree in marketing, but I had a degree because I felt like that's what I was supposed to do, but I didn't know what I would do after. And I ended up like, I love clothing. And so I just took a job at Bloomingdale's part-time just to try to figure out what I'm going to do after college. And while I was there, I was on a lunch break. And on this one particular lunch break, I went to Crate and Barrel. And before I knew it, I had spent 40 of my 45-minute break in Crate and Barrel. And I looked up at my watch, and it was literally like one of those scenes out of like one of those rom-coms. And I'm looking and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have 5 minutes to eat. There's no way I can like get to the food court. So that was my aha moment. I'm like, wait a minute. You don't have any money. You're in this store, like searching for what, I don't know, because you don't have, like, you can't afford to buy anything. But then I started thinking about all the design magazines I had stacked up in the house. I love Metropolitan Home back then.
Yeah.
I would always buy accessories from like TJ Maxx and Marshalls because home goods wasn't a thing then, but they were just sitting in my closet. And I'm like, you like design. And that's what started it.
Wow. I am so impressed. And it makes my heart tingle that you had a very poignant moment and a pivotal moment, because I think as creatives, we all have a moment like that, right? Like for me, it was 20 years of doing therapy in the office and realizing, oh man, I'm kind of tired, but I still want to be creative and help people at the same time. And that was my aha moment. I had a conversation with Gloria. You know her. Shout out to Gloria.
She's so sweet. She's funny.
She's funny and she loves you very much. I had a conversation with her and there was a pivotal moment there. But so from college, marketing, did you go to interior design school? I know for me, I'm self-taught. So many wonderful designers are self-taught. What was your next step?
Okay, so just full transparency, I am a self-taught designer, but that is one of the things that I am most proud of journey-wise. I totally respect and, get the need to go to design schools because honestly, there's some things that I just can't do that. I'm very honest about that because I can't do technical drawings. And so I have to hire out. So I totally respect it. But I will say, as you know, there is something about, to me, design is a feeling and more or less, it's an instinct often, but when you marry that with, the book knowledge, it helps. But to answer your question, okay, so I had this Oprah aha moment. And after you experience that moment, you're like, okay, what do I do? What do I do with this information that's just been deposited into my head? And I ended up going to work at a furniture store called Storehouse Furniture in Atlanta. And I was working in the logistics warehouse, and I would send out all of the products to our accessories to the various showrooms. But one thing that really resonated with me is occasionally I would get to send out press orders. So let's say Nate Berkus does a campaign with them. I'm sending out the product for the team to install. And I said to myself, I don't want to send the product. I want to design. Amazing. And that kind of got the ball rolling. I stayed at that furniture store for about 6 months and I sucked. Anita, I'm sorry, I don't know if I can say that word, but
you can totally say that word. You can say words. I was going to say you were probably my dream store clerk because I could totally see us walking the store and having so much fun. So I can't imagine you not being good at it.
Well, I wasn't pushy though. I'm not gonna.
Oh yeah.
I just want to have the conversation. We're talking about things, and I'm either you want it or you don't. I'm not gonna try to force, but I need to make my commission. But I wasn't good at that. But I ended up applying for a job as an assistant on Craigslist for an interior designer, and that's what really helped me cut my teeth, per se. Mm-hmm. I got the job and it was just the two of us. He was a self-taught interior designer and we would stage model homes in Atlanta. And we would do a combination of model homes and also some residential. But when you work with someone and it's just the two of you, you learn everything.
You do. You really do.
I really learned the art of how you do a consultation, how you put a presentation together, how you do a budget. And I learned all of those things in a year. And that was one of the most valuable life lessons that I could have ever had. And so I just soaked it all in. And after a year, I just had a conversation with the designer and I told him, I said, I really think I want to try this on my own. And I went on Craigslist and I used to make my marketing degree kicks in. And like you said, everything happens for a reason. My marketing degree, I'm like, okay, you don't have clients. So how do you begin to build a portfolio? Mm-hmm. So I went on Craigslist and I posted an ad where I would design one free room as long as the client paid for the furniture. And I would charge them like to paint the walls because I would be the one painting. And that's how I would make my money off of smaller items, but I would design one room and then it would turn into 2 and 3. And that's how I began to build a portfolio back in 2007.
Wow.
And that's honestly how I started.
I love your creativity and boldness. What's your sign, by the way? Do you know your sign?
Sagittarius. So I'm a December baby.
Yes. You know, like right now, I think today there might be a full moon, first full moon in 2024. But like full moons are a time for renewal. It's a new start. So, but I love this, you know, how our personalities drive us forward in our creativity. And even though you are the kindest person in the whole wide world, I love that you're scrappy like me.
You know, so funny. I've been called scrappy so many times. It's so like that is the go-to word.
People think I'm super nice, and I am, but I'm also an Aries, and I love big ideas, and generally I'm not scared to try something new. Yeah. And so people describe me as scrappy, and I'm like, this is why me and Mikel get along, because we're scrappy. We're scrappy together.
We'll have to tell our story because it was just kind of kismet. And
yes, I know.
You just have a great personality and I hope everybody listening or watching gets to meet you in person, because the energy and the kindness that you see on the screen, that is you in real life. So
yes, that is true. That is true. What you get is what you see.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Okay. So I also know you had a stint with Steve Harvey, the Steve Harvey show. Yes. Is that something that's okay to mention, or we don't have to?
Absolutely.
I always love, I don't know. I just think it's kind of fun to talk, you know, what was it like to be on a TV set? I know the TV production is fast and furious. Like, was that another great learning curve for you?
Yes. You know,
designer.
You know, it's so funny to backtrack before I talk about Steve Harvey. I'll just talk about how I got to him.
Okay.
So I ended up moving to New York and Los Angeles in my stint. And when I was in New York, I applied for HGTV Design Star. And I was on season 7 of that show.
Congratulations. That's huge.
Well, thank you. That was nerve-wracking. But after I left the show, because at that time I had gotten my first job as a set decorator working for the designer Emily Henderson.
Yeah, which she's so lovely. She wrote a foreword to my book. Sorry, she didn't write a foreword. She wrote quotes and to support my book. I love her so much.
Super sweet. And she had just won Design Star.
Yes.
And shortly after, I got that job, just so everyone knows, her assistant at the time was designer Orlando Soria. And he had come I was working at CB2, and he came into the showroom and he was returning a bunch of pillows. And I'm like, wait a minute, sir. Like, you are not shopping for yourself. You're returning 30 pillows. I'm like, you do something in television or design. And I'm like, I don't want to get paid. Just like, let me shadow you. And he is how I got to work with her. So I always try to shout him out.
I tell you, scrappy. There's Mikel again. I mean, this invigorates me. Okay. But Orlando is so talented, but so funny. He's so funny. He makes me laugh every time I see him. So, okay. So that's how it got kind of started.
So that's how I get. So I ended up getting a job. I won't tell that scrappy story, but I ended up getting a job working on the Style Network. And I worked on this show called Jerseylicious, and I did the set decoration. And my boss, Alex Duda, she said, when you leave Design Star, if you don't win, I have a job for you when you come back.
Amazing.
Right. And so I go on the show, I come on Design Star, I come in 4th place, I get my job back. And she says to me, we're going to Chicago to shoot the Steve Harvey talk show. So Alex used to produce the Tyra Banks talk show. So she got Steve Harvey's talk show. She now produces the Kelly Clarkson show. So anyhow,
amazing.
So when I came off of that show, I moved to Chicago, like 2 months later to start filming to do the set decoration. And just so everybody has a point of reference, like let's say like Martha Stewart's coming on to promote, oh no, let's say Anita's coming on to promote her book. I would talk to you, talk about your vision. You're flying in from Los Angeles. You don't have time to create a living room. I would create that living room based upon your vision. And when you get there, you can judge. And so I'm constantly creating things for, gosh, everybody from the Property Brothers to Martha. I just got to do a little bit of everything. And
That's so fun.
It was amazing. And my first job on that show was to design Steve Harvey's office.
That's fun.
Very first job was to design his office. And can I just tell that funny story, please?
Yeah, please. I want to know.
Well, so we're in this conference room. It's day one. So you got to imagine I get to work. There are about 60 of us in this conference room, and HGTV Design Star has been like, it's airing at this point. So I'm excited. I have this new job. Honestly, I was a little arrogant at the time because I'm like, I'm on TV and I'm like,
you're on fire. You're on fire.
Well, it's hard when you're on TV and then you have to go behind the scenes. It's tricky. I won't say hard, it's tricky.
Yeah.
And when I sat in the meeting on day one, I really didn't want to take the job because I'm like, I just want to do television. I don't want to work behind the scenes. And while we're sitting at the meeting, Steve Harvey's manager stops in the middle of the meeting and he says, "Excuse me." He said, "Young man, I know who you are." And I'm like, okay. He's like, "You are that boy on HGTV who painted that room green last night and you got sent home." Anita, I'm mortified. I'm like, whoa, like, why would you do this now? Like, this is the first day of work. Like, we've only been at work 2 hours and I'm in front of everyone. So now everybody's like looking at me like,
oh my God, how awkward.
Like he's horrible. Like, why is he here? And he says to me, "I want to see you after the meeting." And at this point, I hadn't met Steve Harvey. And he says, "Listen, Steve Harvey's his makeup artist designed his office, and he's not a fan of it, but that's his wife's friend, so he doesn't want to offend him. So he said, I need you to fix it." And I go in and I meet Steve Harvey, and we had like a 5-minute conversation. And he said, "Hey, they told me you're a great designer and you can, turn this room around." He said, "I'm going to tape Family Feud before we start filming the talk show." He said, "I'll be back in a week and I need you to have this done." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And that was my intro into like starting to do work on the Steve Harvey show. So when Mr. Harvey, I call him Mr. Harvey to this day, when he came back, we walked the space. And he had a small entourage. He asked him to wait in the hallway. And he said, "I just want Mikel to walk me around the space." And when we got finished, he just like sat in awe. And he said, "I'm going to give you a hug." And I was like, okay.
Wow.
And he said, "What you don't understand is I do my radio show from 5 a.m. until 9 Central Time. And then we tape 2 talk shows. So I'm here from 4:30 a.m. until 7 p.m. every day." Crazy. So it's not just an office. I like live here every day.
Yeah, it's his home. It's his home.
And I turned around to him as I'm walking out the door and I said, "God is telling me to tell you I don't want to work for you." And I still get shivers when I think about that, because that was the first time I had an outer body experience where I feel like those words, they came out of my mouth, but I don't know where they came from. The second I said it, it was like I came to, and I'm like, "Oh shoot, what did you just say to this man?" And he turned to me and he said, "What did you just say?" And I'm trying to clean it up. Didn't get any better. I said, "Well, I'm not enamored by who you are." I said, "Honestly, I have a television show that is currently running. And even though I got sent home because I was in the last 2 episodes helping the designers like do the last episodes. I said, I'm currently on television. I really want my own TV show. I just haven't been given that platform." And he turned around to me and he said, "You are crazy." He said, "But I like it." And he said, "I've never had anyone," I can't say what he really said, but "I've never had anyone have the courage to say what you just said to me." He said, I'm going to put you on TV. And the first episode was a walkthrough of his dressing room. And then they begin to let me do home makeover segments. And that's honestly how it started.
I have chills just listening to that, because talk about balls, like talk about.
Well, that's the word you said it. That's the word he said.
I mean, you got some balls, Mikel, because can you imagine? But it's the out of body experience. I mean, it's the spirit or what, like the universe talking through you. But again, like, Mikel, that is such an amazing story. I mean, for a while, were you sweating it, like, for a split second, or?
I was yes, I was for that second, but
then you held your ground.
I used to have a poker face back then. I was really adventurous then, but
I love that so much, Mikel, because look at just courage, right? Otherwise you would have worked background for probably a long time and nobody would have known.
I would have left that room. He just would have said thank you. And that would have been the end of it, because that job was really a blessing, even to this day, because I don't remember who one of the first celebrities was. Like, their flight, they couldn't get to Chicago because of the snow. And we used to have that problem all the time. Somebody misses a flight and they would say to me, Mikel, you designed that segment. Can you fill in and actually do the demonstration on stage? Or if we just had an empty slot, they're like, oh, put Mikel on the stage. And so that just helped me so much.
Wow.
Starting my career out. And I say, even to this day, my current producer, I work on the Drew Barrymore show. Yes. And what people don't know is I often design several of my own segments on the Drew Barrymore show, where I'm doing the behind the scenes shopping. Now they do a bulk of it, but I send my vision, but I still shop. But my boss, from my co-executive producer from the Steve Harvey show, is now the executive producer of the Drew Barrymore show. And so amazing. It's so funny how full circle, 12 years later, that those relationships and just saying yes, and just being open, because you never know what's going to happen.
How inspiring is that? And so how do you help clients at home? How do you, have that same spirit and bring that energy to helping clients feel more brave and courageous? I know for me, my goal in designing for clients is, because I have a therapy background, I want their relationships to flourish, or even if they live by themselves, I want their self-growth to be fostered in the home. For you, you have such a strong instinct of helping people feel open. How do you design that in the homes to help clients have that energy and that same mindset?
It's so interesting. I think because I have that television background, television is interesting because you do a big reveal, unlike with residential clients, they're living in the house. So they get a reveal, but it's a little bit different because they're living in it as it's happening. Yes. Whereas television, we typically put them in a hotel and they come back. And so there's an emotional response.
Yes.
And so that has really taught me a skill, a therapy skill, if you will, with dealing with people and understanding that I'm not just creating something that's pretty. I'm changing someone's life. And especially in television, it's a little bit different because most of the time with our stories, someone has gone through something traumatic or some life-changing event where they really need the help. So you have to dig in, and it's got to be something bigger and greater than you. And so it forces you to dig deep and just go into a different place where you have to really emotionally connect with someone. And so I would attribute a big part of that, dealing with the clients, is that for one. But also, Anita, I think me as a Midwestern person who has lived in Chicago, LA, New York, the South, it's given me the beauty of reaching many people. I feel like I can sit down with 95% of the people in this world and at least have a conversation. Doesn't mean I have to agree, but I can at least have some type of common ground, because I've lived everywhere, not everywhere, but a nice percentage of the places in the US. And so I can connect with those clients, and I really just try to tap in to what their issue is and their pain point, and just give them real solutions that I don't want to use the word magazine worthy, but oftentimes people want aspirational things that they see. And they're always like, well, this is expensive, especially people who taught me out to you design for Steve Harvey and Drew Barrymore. Well, I do, but I also work in television where those budgets are not big like you would think they are. And so it teaches me the art of illusion. There's a lot of what I do, I call smoke and mirrors. And so I have learned how to get the look without spending the big dollar. And I think that's what resonates with a lot of clients, is that 100%. I can't pull off that high-end look from a set design background.
Getting down to brass tacks, when you are working with someone who wants that aspiration, but has a budget, and this is something I deal with clients every day, do you have a couple go-to ways to create that wonderful feeling, but stay within budget? Is it through paint colors? Is it through going to certain stores or using certain home decor items? Like, what are your go-to ways that you feel like beginners can start and not feel like they help them feel like they're set up for success?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing, before you even start shopping, I'd love to tell my clients that they need a robe app. So before you just like willy-nilly run to Home Goods, like, sister, slow down. I need you to find an inspiration photo, whether it's your favorite hotel, your favorite restaurant, whatever draws you in and gives you that emotion. I tell people to like make a Canva board, or even I don't care if it's a PowerPoint, but find an image that you like and draw off of that first, and then shop what you have. I spend so much of my time shopping at home, like stores that give you the look, but you're not spending a ton of money. And I think it's deciding what you splurge on versus things that, I don't need to spend a ton of money on. So I think that's just the biggest thing for me, is like, spend the money on the things that you're going to use the most, like your sofa, your bed, things that you're going to use on a constant basis. Spend the money on that. But I would say, like, on the rugs, the coffee tables, those type of things you can cut back on. But a lot of it is just, planning it out first and having that Bible and roadmaps. When you get to Home Goods, you can like narrow in on exactly what it is that you.
Great advice, because I'm sure you've had clients too, where you go in for the initial consult and they're like, we bought this at HD Buttercup. We spent like $7,000 and it's this big brown poop color looking sofa. And you have to incorporate it because they don't want to get rid of it because they spent so much money on it on a whim. So I think that's great.
Yeah, because there's so many great places like Living Spaces and, all of these great places where you can get the look, but, you don't need a $3,000 sofa. Everybody can't afford that. Maybe you can get a $900 sofa, save a couple of checks, but at least get something that's quality, that looks good. That's a fraction of the cost.
And preparing that vision, or at least having some categories pre-planned, I think is very smart, because most people, when they move into their apartment or first home, they feel the urgency to fill up the spaces. I got to fill it up. I just moved in here. It's empty. I got to fill it up. And
can I give one more resource?
Yeah.
Because I thought about as you were saying, another thing that I love to do is use the site Houzz, Houzz. And what I like about Houzz is you can search for inspiration by zip code. So chances are you can find someone in your neighborhood who like has a similar living room or dining room, bedroom, whatever setup as you have. Maybe they've hired a designer, but you can at least shop or look by zip code, and you can at least get the orientation of like how you set your space up. Because I promise you, someone has a very similar, unless you have like a custom home, but if you have a custom home, you probably aren't worried about budget anyhow, but somebody in your neighborhood has a similar.
I love that, because like, say, master plan communities, same zip code. Most likely the builder was similar or the
Yeah,
same. So the blueprints are very similar.
absolutely.
Okay, so we're winding down a little bit. I love to ask my guests how they find self care at home. So is there a spot in your home that you intentionally design for you? Where is it? What does it look like? How do you find rest?
That's so funny. So for me, I'm a city dweller. I live between New York and Miami. So honestly, I don't have like a lot of space per se, but my safe haven, honestly, Anita, is not even like one particular piece of furniture. It's my robe. And I know that's
I
gonna sound
love that. No,
so
no, no,
weird.
no. This is what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be furniture per se, but it's how you live. Is there something of a lifestyle that makes you,
Yes.
and I call it
Hold on, I'm gonna do something really,
okay.
Brian Patrick Flynn did the same thing to me. Hold on one second.
Okay. All right.
I am going to show you because I stay in this robe right here. This is my Soho House robe. I had it on the Drew Barrymore show. I talked about it. I lost a relationship because my ex said I reminded him of his grandma because I always have this robe on. But I literally put this robe on. It has a hood. This is my happy place. So I don't care if I'm getting the mail, if I'm out on the balcony. As soon as I put this on, I'm in my calm Zen place. Actually, I get after I get off with you, I'm gonna put this on because I stay in it all day.
You know what? So I have a Taylor Swift sweatshirt that I call my serotonin sweatshirt. But this is your serotonin robe. This is your dopamine robe.
Absolutely.
I love that.
I'm going to send you one of these.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait to get one. And we share a great friend, Brian Patrick Flynn, which I hope someday can come on my show as well. So once you have that robe, describe do you just veg? Do you like to have tea? Are there any things that besides wearing the robe that makes you feel good?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm a big coffee drinker. I don't do anything fancy. I put it inside of my Yeti cup. And I just like lounge around the house, but I'm actually in my head, I'm an old English gentleman. And so just randomly in my house, I'm just looking like I have old fashioned glasses. This is clearly something I was sipping on last night, but I love to envision myself in the English countryside. And so I'm really big on, just the comforts of that English Cotswold lifestyle.
Yes.
So I will honestly sit here. I'll light my candle. I'm a big Santel person. I love my Le Labo.
Me too.
So a lot of it is just, sitting on my sofa. Just that's my comfortable place. And, me and the dog, we just kind of chill. And like you said, I find myself, I watch a show called Midsummer Murders. And it's kind of like a Murder, She Wrote for the British. And I literally just watch that all day and I'll just sit on that sofa. And most of the time I'm eating some popcorn. So
I love that. I'm a true crime fan for sure. And so I think there's just so many reasons why we're friends. If we ever hang out, I picture us in robes on a couch with the TV on with true crime, and we're not even talking to each other, and we're just hanging out, just like in silence with the TV on the background and just vegging. That's what I see us doing.
You know what? If you can add a thin crust pizza into that
I love pizza. I love coffee. I love dessert. I love chocolate.
I'm down for it.
Well, Mikel, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. We've just learned so much more about you and mostly how, I don't know, just that, we mentioned scrappiness, but I think it's beyond that. I think it's, having the faith and the vision of where you want to be, who you are, and stepping into your power. That Steve Harvey story, I'm never going to forget it. So thank you for sharing your heart.
It. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate it. And, I just want to say thank you to you because you came into my life and it was so unexpected and you were just so gracious. And I can tell everyone I now have a book deal because of Anita. You know, you randomly just like put my name out into the universe to your book agent, and now it's our book agent. So thank you for, you know, sight unseen. We never even had a conversation.
Oh,
So
well, that's the special part, listeners, is that Mikel and I had not met each other until last year in New York when I had my little book dinner party. That was so lovely. I loved meeting your assistant, James, as well. But prior to that, it's just kismet. It was meant to be. And I think we're going to have some even bigger and better things together, hopefully.
You will.
If the you know, let's see how the universe brings it to us. But there's always a reason why people meet each other. Nothing's ever a coincidence. So I'm really excited to see what we're going to do together next.
I can't wait.
Thank you.
No problem. Have a good one.